Analytical Philosophy, the legacy of Frege, Russell and Wittgenstein. The Roots of Analytical Philosophy. In this video, we will discuss the concept of analytical philosophy. In this context, we will first examine the roots of analytical thought in philosophy. The philosophical school called analytical philosophy manifests itself in a number of different styles, sometimes contradicting each other. However, the common aspect of this diversity is to approach philosophical problems from a linguistic perspective and to seek solutions by making linguistic analysis of these problems. Accordingly, the task of philosophy is linguistic analysis. Propositions controlled by linguistic analysis allow for a philosophy free from metaphysics. The most important tool of language analysis is logic. The term analytical philosophy came into fashion in the 1930s. From its inception to the present day, concepts such as analysis, logical analysis, and conceptual analysis have been used to define the method of this style of philosophy. New logic. Since analytical philosophy is directly related to the development of new logic, what is the distinction between classical logic and modern logic? According to Russell, this distinction is based on the fact that propositions such as Socrates is mortal and all men are mortal are not of the same type of proposition. The former is atomic, the latter is a complex proposition. One of the main theses of modern logic is that the truth value of a complex proposition depends on the truth values of the atomic propositions that make it up. In classical logic, singular propositions are interpreted in the language of general propositions. In modern logic, singular propositions are evaluated as the basic elements from which all propositions can be constructed. What kind of analysis? Analysis has always existed throughout the history of philosophy. For example, it is possible to see in Plato's dialogues the idea of dividing a concept into its parts, making analyses on the meaning of these parts and considering the relationship of the parts to the whole. Later in Aristotle, it is seen that philosophical analyses are made by evaluating any concept or thought in all its aspects. However, all of these are not studies directed at linguistic analysis, with the idea that the problems that arise in philosophy stem from the misuse of language. In the modern age, Descartes' effort to reach clear and distinct knowledge, which cannot be doubted in order to reach certain knowledge, is again not a study on the structure of language. The idea of dividing the complex into its simple components in the context of thought, without considering the relationship between language and thought, has found its place in modern age philosophy. Metaphysics and language analysis in analytical philosophy. If an important aspect of analytical philosophy is to conduct research on the structure of language, the other important aspect is its attitude towards traditional metaphysics. Especially for the Vienna Circle, something that is metaphysical is meaningless, and something that is meaningless is metaphysical. According to analytical philosophers, the metaphysical problems that have arisen throughout the history of philosophy stem from a misunderstanding of the logical structure of language. Frege is one of the leading names in analytical philosophy. Frege thinks that arithmetic propositions are not precise and clear enough. Natural or everyday language is not sufficient to provide precision or clarity. It carries ambiguities and multiple meanings. He tries to develop a new logical language or notation to overcome the shortcomings in natural language. Thus, everyday language and logical language are sharply separated. This new notation is designed to show why mathematical propositions are formed. Starting from here, what he tries to do is to show that the basic principles on which arithmetic is based can be derived from the most basic principles of logic. Another effort in this regard is to define arithmetic concepts in purely logical terms. The question, what is number, that he encountered while dealing with the philosophy of mathematics is also very important. According to another analytical philosopher, G.E. Moore, something can be understood if it can be analysed down to its constituent concepts. Bertrand Russell, influenced by Moore's design of analysis, develops his own view of analyticity. Since he was not aware of Frege in his early days, he has to rediscover what he found. Russell, who thinks similarly to Frege in terms of trying to reduce arithmetic to logic, differs from him on a very important point. Frege reduced numbers to sets. Another analyst is Wittgenstein, a student of Russell. Although there are some basic similarities in his views, they are discussed in two separate periods. In his early period, he developed the doctrine of logical atomism. He approaches philosophy as an activity, not as a doctrine. Philosophy is not presented as knowledge, it is only a tool to determine what is wrong. Here, ambiguities and the mystery surrounding concepts are avoided. Thus, the limits of meaningful speech are drawn. In Wittgenstein, the relationship between language and the world is questioned. In this context, he seeks answers to the following questions. What is the relationship between language and thinking? Where can language be used meaningfully? Where should one be silent? According to Wittgenstein, thinking occurs through language. Language is made up of sentences. It depicts the world. Propositions are descriptions of facts. The interest established between sentences and names corresponds to the relationship between facts and things in the world. The criticisms directed at the understanding of analytical philosophy can be listed as follows. If analytical philosophy is an activity based on analysis, what does philosophy have to say when all concepts are analysed? The claim of purging philosophy from metaphysics is itself a metaphysical claim. Contrary to the prediction of analytical philosophy, the traditional fundamental problems of philosophy have not disappeared. Analytical philosophy has turned the thousands of years of tradition of philosophy upside down. For example, if Descartes were told that philosophy has nothing to do with physics, Aristotle with biology, Locke and Hume with empirical psychology, and Kant with natural science, in line with the understanding of depriving philosophy of the possibility of interfering with scientific activities, those philosophers would oppose this war.